Hey everyone, welcome back to Flute tutorial videos from Radhe Flutes. In this session, we'll talk about flute and its functionality. Now, this is a flute, and if someone asks you which instrument do you play, just by saying flute, that won't be enough. You'll have to be a bit more specific because there are so many kinds of flute: American flute, pan flute, Carnatic flute. The instrument you play, it's called Hindustani classical flute or the Indian bansuri. You must have heard bansuri. The word comes from Sanskrit in which bas means wood and sur means musical notes. Nowadays, we're not just limited to wooden flutes. There are different kinds of materials that we use to make flute. And some of these materials are carbon fiber, steel, bamboo, which we all know, and this is a PVC flute. Now, the PVC material is becoming really famous in the flute industry because it's more durable, cheap, and it comes with less precautions list. And last but not the least, the shape of the flute. It's always cylindrical. Whenever we talk about the flute, it'll always be cylindrical. And why it's cylindrical, we'll understand this further in the session through its functionality. Okay, moving on. In an Indian bansuri, there are 8 holes in total. A blowing hole and 7 playing holes for taking out different kinds of swars or notes. Now talking about the physical appearance of the flute, it looks really beautiful, right? With all these colorful threads. But these threads have a higher purpose other than beautifying the flute. It prevents the flute from getting cracked, and when there is a small crack, sometimes the flute splits open. So these threads are there to protect the flute. Now if you look at this end towards the blowing hole, there is a cork or what we call a stopper, which stops the air and redirects it to the other side of the flute. A lot of people who begins with the flute journey, they think that the cork is supposed to be removed. Please do not remove it or even disturb the cork. The cork or the stopper is at its precise location which determines the scale of the flute. If you disturb it, the scale and the pitch of the flute will be disturbed. And by any chance if you have moved or removed the cork, go to your musical store and get corrected because the changing of pitch or scale is something that you don't want. Okay, moving on. Now this piece of the flute is called the lip plate or the lip rest. Normally you won't find it in a normal bamboo flute, but in a PVC flute from Radhe Flutes, you will generally find this piece. It has a lot of benefits. It helps in lip placement and positioning it. It reduces the hissing sound dramatically, and it also improves the tone quality of your blow. It also provides a dynamic balance between higher and lower register, and it needs 30% less airflow to produce a sound, which is a big help for beginners. Now let's talk about the functionality and how the sound is created in a flute. Being a musician, you should know your instrument well. Once the air goes inside the flute, it finds the nearest exit that it has. It has a cork here, so the nearest exit is the first hole, right? So if I blow it, it's escaping from the first hole, and if I close the first hole, it's escaping from the second hole, and it has to travel further. Now that the air has to travel further, the frequency lowers. That's why if you keep closing the holes down the line, as you can notice, the frequency is getting lower and lower as I'm closing the hole because the air has to travel further and the frequency lowers. Let's understand again. The nearest exit in this case is the first hole because there is a cork here, right? So see again. If I cover the first hole, then it escapes from the second hole. Now to escape from the second hole, the air has to travel further, right? So the frequency lowers and the intensity lowers. That's why this is higher. This sounds a bit lower, right? And if I close the second hole, then it keeps getting lower down the line. Now that you've understood how the flute creates different sounds of different frequencies, it's really important to understand this part. See, if I'm playing 3 holes, I'll have to close all the preceding holes first in order to play 3 holes. Because if I play 3 holes like this, then the air is escaping through the second hole. So in order to play 3 holes properly, you'll have to close all 3 and all the preceding holes first. If I'm closing all 6 holes, I'm playing it. I can't just open this part. It doesn't sound oriented, right? So you'll have to close all the preceding holes in order to play whichever hole you're trying to play. Suppose I'm playing Sa. So Sa is 3 fingers. I'll teach you this words in the next session, okay? 3 fingers is Sa. In order to play Sa, I'll have to close all the preceding holes first. If I open my middle finger, then this is not Sa because the air is escaping through the second hole now. So I'll have to close all the preceding holes. Now what happens if I close the fourth hole without closing the first three holes? Nothing happens because the air is escaping through the first hole itself. So in order to play a proper swar, you'll have to close the preceding holes, which is really important. If I open the preceding holes, then the swar is not accurate. Or proper Sa. This is a proper Sa. And if I disturb the preceding holes, the air escapes through it. So it's really important to close all the holes properly while playing a swar. Okay? The preceding holes especially. So that is all that you need to know about your flute. Now let's learn how to play Sargama or Saregama on the flute.